Hello everyone, I'm Lily, also known as the Furniture Doctor. Well, that's at least what my handle is, but if you've watched the project on this coffee table, you might call me like the furniture killer or the furniture like destroyer, because this project was a fail. Now, if you haven't watched part one, you should probably go do that, but if you don't want to, you don't have the time. Basically what happened was I found this table at the thrift store for $30. I loved the space age shape of it, and it was painted in this funky green color, which honestly wasn't bad, but it wasn't the best paint job. So I stripped it and found pine underneath. And if you know anything about pine, it sucks. Pine sucks. Staining it sucks. Sanding it sucks. It just sucks. Don't bother with pine. I learned my lesson. And so I tried to stain it black, which now that I'm saying that out loud was not a smart idea. Although I don't think I could have done anything to this table to make it look good, but I just felt at the time that painting it was kind of just erasing all of the work I put into taking that green paint off. So I posted the video and you guys gave me so much good advice, tips, like suggestions on what I should do next. The most common suggestions were paint it and tile it and then burn it. Like burn it to like get rid of it, not burn it like Yakasuki, Japanese burning, just burn it. Firewood. So I have been kind of toying with the idea of all of them. Not really the burning one because we're still under a fire ban. So I don't want to invest any more money into this piece. I have lost so much money just in the time that I've been working on it, and then supplies too. So here's what I did. I ordered tile samples from Home Depot, and tile is so expensive. I was calculating how much square footage I would need, and I believe it's 27 square feet. And if you know anything about tile, like it's like $10 to $30 a square foot. So then times that by 27, that's a lot of tile, and that's a lot of money. And I don't know if I can really spend that. So I did order some samples just to kind of play around with the idea of it. I figured I would need like a micro mosaic. So that's what I ordered. I believe these are 1/2 by 1/2 squares because it would need to like round around this edge. This one, it would be fine, I think, but then this front edge is rounded. So I think it would be cool. And I believe this was $5 a square foot, maybe $6. I think they're pool tiles, to be honest. That's what someone suggested. There's a few things about tile that I have reservations about. One, you already know the cost. Two, the weight. So this is already a really heavy table. It's solid pine. And I think adding on tile and then the mortar and grout as well would add so much weight to this table. But I do really like the idea. Then we have the other suggestions of paint. And I'm starting to lean towards that idea. So paint. I think paint is the way to go. There's the hesitation that I have of I just removed all that green paint and now I'm gonna paint it. Like I was like in the crevices with dental picks. Like it took me forever. So that kind of crushes my soul, but I do think that's the way to go. So my options for paint, because we are trying to save money, I'm trying to not invest any more money in this piece. Here are my color choices. I will say, you guys have all recommended that I do kind of like the mid-century modern colors to kind of play into the shape of the piece. And I agree, but I also need it to sell. I need it to sell. So these are the colors that I have. I have this paint from Fusion. It's elderberry. It's like kind of this purpley, reddish berry color. Elderberry, yeah, it's like a berry color. And then I have this one, Tuscan orange, which is totally space age. So that could look really cool. My hesitation with using these, I don't want to buy more Fusion paint. It's great, super expensive. So this whole piece would have to just be used by one can. Like I'm not buying more of it. So that should be enough. I feel like I've done a whole dresser out of one can of Fusion paint. Like a little bit goes a long way. My next option, I have this. Rust-Oleum's Low Odor, and it is Gloss Ladybug Red. And I have 6 of them. I was gonna use this on another project, I ended up not. So I have 6 of these. So I'm not gonna run out of this if I were to use this. But how do we feel about Ladybug Red, like a fire engine red? I don't know. You tell me. So I don't know. I've just been going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and I don't know what to do. So I think what I'm gonna start off doing while I continue to think about this, maybe I'll make a post on Facebook and ask everybody like what color I should go with. I do wanna prime this because with whatever I use, if I decide to go with this, I wanna make sure that I have a primer on there so it goes on there, adheres well. And then we are gonna have to do some like filling in of these cracks and bumps and stuff to make sure everything looks smooth. So let's go ahead and do that. First things first, I'm gonna give this a good clean because it's gotten a little dusty. Probably gonna be some black on my cloth because I never sealed, I never sealed the that I put on. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of scuff sand this because it is pretty smooth after how much work I put into it. So I'm using 60 grit. That's probably a little low, but I mean, whatever at this point. And I'm just lightly, briefly sanding it just so that we get some better adhesion on the paint. Everything is sanded, just brief sand. And now I'm taking some crud cutter just to remove any of the dust before my primer. Okay, time for primer. This is what I'm using, Rust-Oleum's low odor primer. I recently used one of their low odor spray paints on a dresser, the Black Stanley dresser. If you haven't watched that video, you should. And I loved it. So we're going ahead and doing, using it again, but just their primer. So I got a few cans of this. We're gonna shake, shake, shake. And then after that, it'll kind of show me any imperfections. That's what primer usually does. And then from there, that's when I'll start filling, probably with like some Bondo, like the red Bondo putty, or regular Bondo, but we will see. Okay, let's start spraying. I was like, why is it spurting so much? I had my freaking finger in front of the nozzle, so don't be me. Hilarious. Here we go. Just had to move my finger. That's funny. Now can you see what I mean about primer making, oops, you know, all the imperfections way more apparent? There's lots of little things that I wouldn't have noticed, so we'll have to fix those. Okay, now I'm gonna try to get the inside. I'm not too stressed about the inside because it's the inside, so I'm just gonna do my best, but I'm not gonna freak out about it. So this all needs a little bit longer to dry, cure before it's ready to be painted. So like I said, we're gonna go through with that Bondo glazing putty, which you can tell has been well used the way it's squished. And we're just gonna be filling in some of like these little imperfections. Putting it on my Bondo spreader. And this is the 1-part Bondo. There's no like hardener you need to mix in. It's ready straight out of the tube. It's for much smaller repairs, like these little nicks and dents. Anything bigger, you'd use regular Bondo. So it's just kind of, it's a glazing spot putty, basically. Well, that's exactly what it is. I am doing this seam, and I don't know if that's the smartest because wood expands and contracts, especially solid wood like this. So filling in this gap might not be the smartest because when it expands and contracts with the weather, it could create that crack again and make it look a little bit more noticeable, but I don't know. I already did it, so there's no going back. So I'm gonna give this today and tonight to dry, cure. Then tomorrow we will sand down smooth and add some more primer over the Bondo spots and then maybe paint if everything is looking good and smooth. Okay, it's the next day. I'm gonna start sanding. I have 320 grit on here, which is really kind of high. So this will probably gum up pretty fast, but I have a ton of high grit sandpaper and I need to use it and I want this to be smooth, so whatever. That's what we're gonna use. So I might be using a lot of it, but that's okay. I need to get through it anyway. Okay, let's start sanding. So everything is sanded down. It is so smooth when I touch it, which is so nice. I am gonna do, I feel like I maybe should do a little bit more primer, I don't know, to maybe help cover up some of the red and then we can paint. Okay, more primer. This time I'm not gonna put my finger in front of the nozzle. All right, I'm glad I'm adding more primer because now I'm seeing more spots. Now again, going back with my Bondo glazing putty and gonna put it on like little marks like that. I don't know if you could see that right there. I'm just getting any spots that I missed or sand it off. Also, I forgot to mention, you want to prime pine because the knots can bleed through. So that's another reason why I'm priming and not just going straight into paint, because I don't want to paint all that and then all of a sudden I got all these knots coming through. So. So round 2 of primer and Bondo glazing putty is done. Now again, we just need to wait for this to dry, cure, and then I think we'll be ready for paint. I know I keep saying that, but I think this is it, and then we could do paint. And I put a post on my Facebook and my YouTube posts and to see what color you guys think I should go with. And there's one color that you guys keep saying, so I'm gonna give a little more time and see what you guys choose. So this decision is not up to me, for the record, it'll be up to you guys.
I'm back again to sand again.
Still using fine grit sandpaper though. So I gave you guys the option on Facebook and my YouTube posts, and of these 3 colors, which one do I choose? And an overwhelming vote was Tuscan Orange, which I'm shocked. I'm literally shocked that this was the most popular vote by like kind of a landslide. So we're doing it. And hopefully you guys are right. Hopefully this is the color that is gonna look best, because if not, I don't know what I do next. And hopefully I have enough of this paint to make it through this entire table, crossing my fingers and toes, because I don't know what I'll do if I don't. So yeah, let's start painting. Orange. I literally can't believe this is the color you guys are choosing. All right, putting it in here and using a 1/4 inch nap roller. And always lining my paint trays with tin foil so they can be reused. And here we go. Hopefully you guys are right. This is kind of depressing because you can see how it's one coat is not giving me enough coverage at all to cover up all the Bondo and knots and stuff. So it's gonna be interesting. Okay, first coat is on, and you can see there are definitely spots peeking through of the Bondo, and then also some of the old stain and the knots. I probably should have added a little bit more primer prior to painting. So I'm just kind of crossing my fingers that I have enough paint to do enough coats that covers all of the staining. So I'm gonna let this dry and then come back tomorrow or the next day, because it's the weekend now, and I'll do a little hand sanding to get a smooth finish, and then we will do coat number 2. We're back. I'm working on a Saturday and the paint is dried. I'm taking this Gator detail sanding kit, and I have 600 grit, and I'm just putting it on here, and I'm gonna hand sand. And I'm just lightly trying to remove any texture, any brush marks, roller marks, imperfections, so that when we put on the next coat, it goes on smooth. So let's set up our next paint tray. This is why I love using tin foil, because I can just take this right off and toss it. The one thing that I really don't like about Fusion paint is how the paint gets stuck in the cap and makes it impossible to open. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, oh, there we go. And I feel like the only reason I was able to open it without any tools is because it wasn't fully cured yet. Like, it's definitely a fail on their packaging part. But this is how much paint we have left. I'm not sure if you can see that. Probably used about a little over 1/3. So now that I poured that, there's probably less than half is what I'm seeing. Oops, I don't know. I'm a little nervous. Hopefully the second coat will start looking good. And I haven't really done the underside of this table yet either. So there's that. So let's start painting. I think I might have used too thick of a nap roller, like this one, like the hairs on it were a little bit longer than the other one, I think, which I think is kind of contributing to the texture that I'm getting with the second coat. I'm not gonna switch now because I don't wanna waste this roller, but if and probably when I do a third coat, I'll use a foam brush maybe, or a foam roller. Second coat is on, and there are a few spots, I'm not sure if you can see, that are peeking through, especially along the top, like right over here. And I still have not done the top of the inside or the underside right there. So, because I'm afraid I'm gonna run out of paint. But it's looking pretty good. So we'll do the same thing, let it dry, sand with super high grit, and then go back for a third coat. And hopefully looks cool. It's starting to remind me of a Lego, which is kind of funny. And this feels like deja vu, but we're back again. Sanding again. This second coat has dried. Now I'm putting on 1000 grit because I have a lot of it, and I'm gonna use my orbital this time. Obviously going to just very lightly sand because I don't want to take off any paint, just remove any brush marks, imperfections, and then move on to coat number 3. And I'm really scared we're not gonna have enough paint, but I've been brainstorming this, and I'm thinking if I don't have enough paint, I will take this to Lowe's, Home Depot, whatever, and get a can of high gloss paint, and they'll color match this, which is still frustrating because whatever the cost of this paint is will just kind of go in the garbage, because if I get this paint matched or color matched and then I have to buy a quart, I think is the smallest you can buy, that's still like $30, $40. So it's just, this is a money pit. This is like the definition of a sunk fallacy cost sunk fallacy, something like that. But anyways, let's start sanding. Coat number 3. Still having a little bit of issue covering that black stain. You might be able to see it right there. So I did it. I went to Home Depot and I got myself some paint, and I got a high gloss. So we'll see how that goes. It was really, really, really hard for them to find the paint match color. Like, we were going through all of the different shades and nothing would like exactly match. Like there were some close ones, but nothing that was like right on the money. I brought this little stick with me that you saw me paint, and there were some close ones, but they ended up using the color machine to match. And I do think we got a pretty close match. It's not gonna be exact, so I'm gonna have to obviously cover every inch, which I was already planning on doing anyway. So yeah, here is the numbers on it. I'm not sure if that'll be backwards or not, but yeah, let's pop it open and put a coat on. So here is what we're looking at. And obviously this is still wet, so it'll change once it's dry. Now, working on the underside of this table, because now I finally have enough paint to do so. So this first coat of high gloss Behr paint is on, and it definitely does look a little bit shinier. I think the color match was almost perfect, which was crazy because in the store they made it seem like they couldn't make that happen. So very pleased about that. Gonna let this dry, then sand, and then do another coat. I'm not really sure how many coats this is gonna need. I'm hoping 2, maybe another one. Don't mind my monster, it's like my guilty pleasure. Sugar-free only, duh. But I'm gonna probably have to do another coat on the underside because I didn't really get it with primer that well. And it also doesn't have the other paint on it, the first orange paint. So you can definitely see there's a sheen to it. I personally wouldn't call this high gloss, but Behr does. So it's literally deja vu at this point. This is dried, now sanding again with 1000 grit, just trying to get any smooth, or just trying to get any roughness from my roller marks. And then we'll do one more coat, and then I think we'll be ready for top coat finally. This is truly like sand paint, sand paint, sand paint. I don't even know what coat we're on right now. 5, 4? I know it's number 2 of this new paint. I'm also wearing like my favorite shirt today. Not my favorite shirt, but like one of my shirts I wear a lot when I'm not in the garage. And so we'll see if I can avoid orange paint. Otherwise it's gonna become a garage shirt. So that coat of paint has dried. I've already sanded it with 1000 grit because it's getting a bit redundant, just painting, sanding, painting, sanding. So the next step, top coat. So you guys gave me such good recommendations on what to do for top coat because I was really interested in like that high sheen, like mirrored, lacquered finish. And honestly, lacquer really isn't an option because it's really expensive and I've already poured a ton of money into this. Like for instance, like a regular spray can of Mohawk lacquer is probably about anywhere from $18 to $20. And it would easily need several cans of that. If I had like the whole detail spraying kit, and then I'd have to buy like a gallon of lacquer. Again, that's like $150, buy like a gallon of it, I think. It's just not feasible, and I don't want to invest all of that for this project. Polyurethane I could do, and still I'm strongly considering, but I don't think I'd get that super high gloss finish, and I don't know. So after like doing some research, I kind of came across a controversial product for this, epoxy. And I was thinking about it because I've used epoxy before, like resin for like craft projects, and it always has like this super shiny finish to it. And I was like, what if I just did that on this table? So I think I'm gonna try. I got this one, it says it has a high gloss finish, and it's like a tabletop epoxy. So I'm pretty sure it's like meant to like have a pour on, like you're supposed to pour it on and then it like self levels. But obviously I can't really pour it on because there's so many like sides, there's the opening, all of that. We'd have just a ton of drip marks. So I did contact the company Total Boat, and they told me that I can use a foam roller. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm scared of messing it up because if I mess it up, that kind of just ruins the piece. So what I think I'm gonna do is just do the bottom and see how the bottom looks, and then let that cure, and then do the rest. It says I can do as many coats as I want. If I do get bubbles, I can use a heat gun to pop any of the bubbles, and it has a working time of 40 minutes. It says 70 degrees is the ideal temperature. Used in a low humidity, dust-free, well-ventilated workspace. It's definitely not 70 degrees. It's definitely a lot hotter, but I'm never gonna be out in this garage when it's not 70 degrees. I don't really have dust-free workspace, but I think I will figure it out. And I do have well ventilation. The garage door is open, so got that going for me. So yeah, let's mix this up and apply it to the bottom of this table. I don't know how this is gonna go, but whatever. Not really sure how I should like tape off the bottom, or if I should like, I don't really know. All right, let's just mix it up and just try it out. This stuff is a 1-to-1 mixing ratio, so I just marked off this little line right here, and that's what, or maybe I should just do it to the top of the green. I don't know, we'll see. Of where I'll measure, because I don't want to do the whole thing just yet, because we're not sure if this is actually going to work. And then I will put it in here to mix. So this is my measuring cup, and this is my mixing. So first we have resin A. Oops, geez. I think we're going to go to the top of the green line. Yeah, we'll go to the top of the green line for this one. Okay, and then honestly I should probably do a different, instead of pouring it, just do the other B in here. Yeah, and then mix it in one whole one. That would probably make the most sense. It says to stir this for 3 to 5 minutes, or until it's mixed thoroughly. You can kind of see where it's not mixed. So I'll be mixing here for a while. We're trying to avoid making too many bubbles. And then I will pour it into the paint tray, and we'll apply this first coat and hope it goes well. Okay, let's pour this into my paint tray. Now they said I could use a foam brush, so that's what I have. I'm really nervous about this, per usual. All right, let's dip my roller in there. That didn't go on bad at all. Literally just like feels like an extra thick, sticky top coat. So I kind of have a good amount left, and I obviously don't want to waste it because, why would I want to waste it? So I'm thinking maybe I should just try and do the inside. Should I just go for it? Okay, we're gonna go for it. Can already see that gloss, like that gloss finish, which is amazing. So I ended up doing the inside and the bottom, but I'm noticing this, maybe you can see it on camera. It almost seems to be like, I don't know the word, like maybe rejecting. Like you see how it's maybe not adhering. It almost reminds me of when you put like an oil stain over a water, or an oil top coat over a water stain or something. Like it just doesn't mix. You can kind of see it here too. Like you see that? I'm hoping that it just is part of the self-leveling process. I didn't do the top or the sides yet. And that it'll all kind of work itself out. You can kind of see in there too. So yeah, safe to say I'm a little nervous, and I'm hoping that it ends up just being okay. Again, I have not worked with epoxy too much to know if this is normal. I applied very thin coats. I'm hoping it just works out because I don't know. I don't know how to take this stuff off if it doesn't work. So, yeah, like I even see it on the side. So hopefully this is just part of the process. The good thing is epoxy can be sanded. So if I need to sand any parts smooth, I can do that. I should have probably Googled, can you put epoxy over enamel paint, enamel acrylic paint? I'm gonna kick myself if it says no, but I guess we'll just let it cure this first coat and then I'll check back in. It's the next day and it is cured. It looks and feels amazing. I'm not kidding. I am like so happy. I think I found like the hack for the high gloss finish and I'm obsessed. So we're gonna do the top and the sides now. I know I brought up like that texture thing where it kind of looked like it was like being repelled. Like the epoxy was kind of like not adhering or it had like that weird texture. And so I went ahead and I messaged Total Boat on Instagram because they've been super responsive, excellent customer service. This is not sponsored at all. And I sent them the pictures and I said, I just applied the first coat and this is what I'm getting. Does this consistently look right? It seems like it's not adhering. And I sent the close-ups of the pictures and they asked what kind of paint it was applied over. And I said a water-based enamel. And they said, we just asked the tech team, when you apply the tabletop epoxy too thin, it can actually pull away, causing this effect. I'd recommend going thicker for the next coat. And then I said, should I sand lightly after it cures? And they said, yes. So I am gonna sand lightly before doing the second coat. And they also said, and just know since it's a thin coat, it might take longer to cure, which I wouldn't have thought that. I would have thought it would have been taking longer. So I am going to sand this with some high grit and then we will do the second coat for the inside, the bottom, and then the first coat for the top. But guys, it looks really good. Just look at this. Like I'm getting that high gloss look, which is exactly what I wanted. And it's not even like polished yet. You see the reflection? You see the reflection? Now I'm going ahead with 100, no, actually I'm going ahead with 220 grit because that's what the internet told me to do for epoxy coats. So let's sand it lightly. Now there's like a lot of that white kind of residue. So I'm just gonna take some crud cutter on my shop towel and just wipe all of this off. I did go ahead and sand the top with 120 grit. I did that because, as you know, I was sanding it with 1000 grit to get that super clean, fine finish. I think maybe because it was such a high grit, that might have also kind of affected the way that this first coat of epoxy went on and kind of had like that texture to it. Because if it's too slick, it's hard to adhere. So I went ahead and did that and we'll see if there's any difference on the top as there was on the other parts that I did yesterday. So I'm gonna continue wiping this down and then we'll do the second coat. Almost there. All right, got my tray set up and now let's do some measuring. Hi, Maisie Daisy. Hello, May. Thanks for visiting. All right, I'm hoping I got this ratio right. I feel like it might have not been as exact as yesterday, which is scary. And now we mix. So mix for 3 to 5 minutes. We'll pour and then do the next coat and first coat on the top. All right, pouring my epoxy. Now doing the first coat on this side. So I did the second coat everywhere else. Kind of running out of epoxy, but I should have enough for this first coat. Okay, not too bad. Now I need to make a little bit more and do the other side and then we'll get started on the top. Now time for the top. I've been putting this off and now it's time. Okay, here we go. Now I am still noticing some texture. Maybe you can see it on the side here with the second coat, but honestly, that's on the top. But I will say the top and the sides are not anywhere as bad as it was with the first coat on the bottom, like on the base. So I do think sanding with a lower grit did help me prepare the surface a little bit better. So far, that's what I think. But yeah, I'm very impressed with the sheen. It's exactly what I wanted. So gonna let this cure dry and then probably do one more coat for the top and the sides. I don't know if I'll do the bottom. I mean, I have enough epoxy, I might as well. But yeah, I gotta say, I think I might have found the hack to this. It's the next day, the top has cured and there's texture. Let me show you. I came in the garage last night to look at it while it was drying and I was like, whoa. You can see, it literally looks like it's repelling off of the surface. Like the divots in it, like I can feel the texture of the paint underneath and then the epoxy, like they're like craters almost. So if you're watching this and you have advice or experience with epoxy, please let me know what you think I did wrong. And just a reminder, I did sand this with 220 grit before I put it on. Despite this texture, I absolutely love the way that it feels and I love the sheen. The second coat that I did on the inside looks way better. So I'm thinking the secret is sanding, removing a little bit more of that texture and then putting the second coat on and kind of hoping that the epoxy settles into, you know, those little craters or whatever you want to call them. Because the sides also, or the base, looks great. A lot better. There are a few bubbles I may have missed. So I'll probably hit this with a sander as well. But yeah, so my next move is to sand the top and then probably just sand everything, I think. Maybe just select sides or select parts of the base and then another coat. This is very repetitive process, clearly, so hopefully you guys are still watching and haven't abandoned this video already. But yeah, it definitely feels like a social experiment or just an experiment. Okay, let's get to work. This angle is crazy, how you can see the texture in the light. All right, let's try sanding. So I just read that I'm supposed to be cleaning the dust off with like alcohol or acetone. Before I put on this first layer of epoxy, I used Crud Cutter. So I don't really think it would affect this and give me this texture, but it could have. So that's my bad for not looking it up first. But I'm gonna do it correctly this time and taking some acetone to wipe the surface to get the dust off. I'm gonna do it on the inside first, just in case. I mixed up the next thing of epoxy, so let's put it on and hope it helps with this texture. So after that last coat, I am noticing a few little bubbles that I think if I left it, they would probably level out and work themselves out. But just in case, I'm using this heat gun. I believe I got this one from Harbor Freight. It takes a minute to heat up, but I also like don't want to warp the paint underneath, you know? So gonna do this for a little while, and I'm worried some of this might actually be dust. No, that one is definitely I think some of it might be dust, which is not great. We're about to see if that coat looks the way it should. Okay, I'm still seeing quite a bit of texture, but not as bad as the first coat. So, look at the sheen though, honestly. So I think we are going to have to sand this and then do another coat. And then hopefully that'll be the last coat. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and sand with 220 grit. So I sanded everything and I cleaned it really, really well, like significantly more thorough than the last time, because I do think some of the dust contributed to like the texture that I got, like just little specks of dust. So I was really careful about that. I mixed up the epoxy, and I think what I'm gonna do for the top now is pour it on. I know, because I've rolled it all the other times. So I think I'm gonna pour it on and then maybe roll it out from there. And I'm gonna start with the top first, where I've been doing the top last. I think if I do the top first, that might give me a better chance of getting so much dust on the top, as I think some of the roller just kind of accumulated some debris as I was using it the other day. So here we have my mix. This might also give me the thicker coat that they recommended I do. It's okay. I'm not really sure how I'm supposed to pour epoxy, if I'm supposed to. I've seen people do stuff like this with it, like spread it around. It's definitely a thicker coat than what I was doing with the roller. I am gonna take the roller though and do the rest of this. Just spread it out, which might defeat the purpose, but it's definitely thicker in the middle. It's not spreading around as easily as I thought, so I probably should have poured it throughout the entire top instead of just the middle. That's my bad. This I obviously can't really pour on because that would just be hard. Working against gravity. The one thing I do have to worry about on the sides if I do too thick of a coat is I get like drip marks. Like you can see where it's trying to like self-level, and then kind of like when you put too much paint. So that coat is on, and I'm not sure if you can tell, but there's definitely a lot of little bubbles. I'm really hoping they just kind of take care of themselves. I am not going to use the heat gun because I felt that the heat gun was just kind of spraying any debris that was just like stuck in the fan already from just not being used for a while, or just like picking stuff up and just spraying at it. And I feel like I was just creating more problems for myself. So honestly, I think we're just gonna leave it. You can tell, see those little bubbles. And I'm really not sure if they are debris or just, I don't know. I think it's a little bit of both. Love the sheen though. I'm getting the look that I was working. Yeah, I can't speak today. I think I'm trying to say is the sheen is turning out the way that I want it to. So we're gonna let this dry, cross our fingers, toes, everything, that this is the last coat, and hopefully the next time you see me, it's the before and after transformation. So let's see how it cures. It's the next day. The table has cured. Well, not fully cured. I think it takes like 7 days to fully cure, but it's hard enough for me to continue working on it. And I think that was my final coat. But now we need to sand and polish. This wasn't a step I was really gonna do because, I mean, this piece has been like the definition of sunk cost fallacy, but there are a few spots that are just, so I figured, let's see what we can do. So I have all of these sanding grits. They go 320 up to 1,000, and then I do think I have higher than 1,000, so I'm not gonna worry about that right now. I'm gonna dry sand, like regular sanding, probably 320, 400, and then once I get to 600, I'm gonna start wet sanding. So I'm gonna put a little bit of water on here and try to polish it. I'm really scared because when you sand epoxy, it can get like this cloudy finish. So hoping that doesn't happen. I do need to go get a polish today, so hopefully I can find one that is compatible with this table to give it like the final like glossy shine. But overall, I'm just worried about, or just trying to remove some of the imperfections, bubbles and little specks of dust. So yeah, I'm not gonna go crazy with the sanding because again, I wasn't really putting on super thick coats, so I don't wanna sand through everything. I just spent a week putting on, so let's sand. So now I'm gonna wet sand. I have like this little spray bottle filled with water, and I'm just gonna get it on there and hope this works as a way of wet sanding. And just do this throughout. I'm just taking a microfiber towel as I go through, and I'm really scared I'm sanding off all of the epoxy. I'm really scared I took all the epoxy off. I don't know what to do. Oh, I'm sweating. I just wet hand sanded to 3,000 grit. So I did 1,000, then I ran out and got 2,000, 3,000. And the 2,000, 3,000 that I got wasn't like a hook and loop system, so it wouldn't connect to my orbital, so I had to hand sand all of it. My hands are going crazy. I picked up this Meguiar's Ultimate Compound, and I have my drill with this polishing pad or buffing pad. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this. It wants me to do them in sections using moderate pressure, overlapping circular motions. Immediately remove the product with a quality microfiber towel. Do not let product dry. So I'm gonna do that, and then I believe I have to do another polish and a wax, which I'm reading. I wish I would have, I don't, whatever. So yeah, let's do this. I'm still really skeptical because this is really dull. Still, it feels fabulous. It doesn't feel perfect. Like I can feel some of the little divots that you see, but I've wasted so much time. I thought it'd be done today. I thought it'd be done weeks ago, but now that this added step is, do this step and see how it turns out. So it says to add a little bit onto the pad. All right, I don't know if that made a difference at all, maybe a little. You're all probably gonna get whiplash from this project. I know I am. The polish, I can't do it because you still see the divots. I don't think anything can truly help me. I feel like the only thing that I can do is another coat of resin and just leave it at that and not touch that resin once I put it on. I'm really scared that the resin might not adhere. I hate this project so much. I wiped everything down with acetone already to get off that polish, or compound, whatever it's called. This sucks. I was supposed to be done with this forever ago. Okay, let's just mix it, pour it on, and then we're done. We're done. I'm gonna start here first in the inside, just in case this is a really bad idea, and then I'll move to the top. And I have this Bondo spun or spreader that I'm going to use to spread this and see if this gives me a better. So I think I definitely you put too much in here. So I'm going to go like this. I have no idea if I'm doing this right. I'm gonna guess probably not. All right, I think I might need to get my foam brush. This is kind of a mess. All right, I'm gonna get my foam brush because this is kind of chaotic. I don't know if that was the way to go. I'm gonna say probably not. Or maybe if I were to do a thinner coat. Yeah, let's try a thinner coat on the top. Okay, coat is on. The final coat. I'm hoping this goes well because I promise the next time you see me, that's it, we're done. So let's let this harden and then it's probably gonna go to the thrift store. So it's the next day, the last epoxy coat has cured and I'm keeping my promise, that was the last coat. Now before I show you the final reveal, we need to revisit the real before. The before was this painted green table I got at the thrift store for $30. And after the painstakingly long and tedious process of stripping off that green paint, I realized it was pine. And I made the decision to stain it black, which was probably my mistake. It was my mistake, not probably. Because I probably should have done a paint wash because apparently that's what pine does best. But I learned my lesson, don't you worry. And after consulting you all for advice of how I should move forward, about 90% of you said I should paint it in a funky color at that. So after working on this piece for way too long, here is the final reveal. The final reveal. Thankfully, the last Hail Mary epoxy coat worked and it overall, I think it looks good. It definitely did give me that high glossy lacquer finish I was looking for without the cost and the setup needed for a true lacquer finish. I poured so much money into this project and time as well. I had to laugh at the part of me wanting to use what I had in terms of paint, like the orange paint that I already had, because I quickly ran out of that, as you know. And then I had to spend the money to get it paint matched. And then I needed to get the epoxy top coat, which was like another $60. And then the high grit sanding pads, the 2,000, 3,000, which was like another $20, and new microfiber towels. And so overall, this was a learning experience. This was a money pit. I learned a new skill, I think, in terms of working with epoxy. So let's briefly talk about the lessons that I learned and what I would do differently if I were to ever do epoxy top coat again, or this project again. One, I probably wouldn't have used mineral paint. It did not cover the Bondo, the knotty pine, or anything. And so I needed so many coats that it caused me to run out, and then I had to end up going to get the Behr paint. So I probably should have just used something like that Behr paint to begin with. Because so many coats of paint really dragged this project out because I had to wait, so many hours to recoat it. So that is one thing I'd do differently. Two, I wouldn't have gotten high glossy paint for when, like how I got the Behr paint match. I got a high gloss one. That's more expensive. If you get a flat paint, it is cheaper. I don't know why, probably more expensive to be made. So I probably could have saved a few dollars with that. My thought process behind getting the high gloss is that it would just be fine and I wouldn't have to, bother with the epoxy top coat. But obviously it didn't give me the shine that I wanted, so I could have just saved a few dollars and just done flat paint. Another thing I would do differently is not sanding each paint coat so finely. I mean, it did give me a really nice finish, but then I was putting the epoxy on top of it anyway. So epoxy is so thick that it would have kind of covered like any of the imperfections you would have felt with the top coat or with the last coat of paint. So I probably would have stopped, or should have stopped, at 180 or 220 grit, because I do think that may have affected the way the epoxy went on the first coat and how I had those divots and kind of like dimples or whatever you want to call them, how it kind of looked like the epoxy was rejecting the paint. So I think if I did a lower grit, it would have maybe had something to grip onto, and we wouldn't have gotten that. That's something I would change, because I was sanding with like 400 grit for my paint coats. So that was also time wasted, money wasted in sanding pads, etc. With the epoxy, I don't know if I would have changed doing the roller or the pour-on. The pour-on really worked the last coat. It was so messy, like it's all over my floor. I don't know if I would change that or do that differently. I don't know. It's really hard to do a table like this because it's 3D, it drips. If you're just doing, you know, a flat surface, just like a tabletop or a countertop, you can just pour it on. That's way easier. This definitely was a little bit harder because of the shape. So yeah, I don't know if I would change the roller or the pour-on technique, so let me know. I obviously wouldn't have sanded it, the epoxy, like those last coats, going like I was hand sanding with 200 or 2000, 3000 grit sandpaper, like, and then polishing it. I wasted a lot of time doing that. I know that is the correct way. I clearly just was not doing it right because I couldn't get that sheen back. So thankfully this last Hail Mary coat of epoxy went on fine, looks fine. It's definitely not perfect. It's not perfect, but it looks pretty good and it's very durable. I think it does take 5 days to fully cure. I am happy with how it turned out. So that was a lot of time wasted. But yeah, I don't know if I would ever do this technique again. I probably will, never say never, because it did give me the sheen that I wanted, but would I feel comfortable doing this on an entire dresser? I don't know, maybe that would be fun, now that I say it out loud. So, tell me what you think. Would you try this? Would you do an epoxy top coat? What do you think of the color? Are you happy with how it turned out? Like, I mean, I kind of am. That is the main lesson. When you see pine, either run or paint it. I could have saved myself weeks and lots of money and just a lot of time had I just done this to begin with. So I learned my lesson. And hopefully you guys learned from my lessons, from watching my lessons. So yeah, let me know what you think. Thank you guys for all of your suggestions, recommendations, and for just cheering me on for this project because it was sunk cost fallacy for sure. So don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hype, everything and anything that YouTube allows you to do because that allows me to keep creating free content for you to watch. So thank you guys. Can't wait for you to see the next project. It's got a lot of good ones. And please, if I did anything wrong with the epoxy, please let me know. Okay, bye guys.